With Europe and Japan in ruins from the war, America was producing 2/3 of manufactured goods for the entire world. For veterans returning home, jobs were plentiful and salaries were good. And the government offered them unprecedented opportunities through the GI Bill.
The GI Bill was an extraordinary piece of social engineering that had enormous consequences for post-war American society. It really shuffled class boundaries in American society so that people started talking about this as a completely middle-class society instead of one rent by the kind of class divisions you'd seen earlier in the century.
As couples married and started families, they longed to own a home, to grab their share of the American dream. With the GI Bill, they could, in the wide open spaces outside the cities that became known as the suburbs.
The suburbs were built partly by the GI Bill, by deliberate government policies which provided mortgages for men moving into single-family homes in segregated neighborhoods, which is the only thing the bill would pay for.
The suburbs offered white America freedom, security, and contentment in a comfortable home with a lawn to mow on weekends. In the suburbs, air was cleaner, recreational facilities abounded, and crime rates were almost forgotten. By the end of the decade, 1/3 of all Americans lived in the suburbs, and 1 out of every 4 houses had been built in the 1950s. Jobs, too, were plentiful in the suburbs as businesses and factories moved from the cities.
Now, with the development of trucking and the need for new, huge, single-level plant facilities to make use of the new technology, they needed to move out into large, unpopulated areas where they also hoped to be able to escape, incidentally, the unions that had been so successful in the 30s and 40s.
If you disperse the population also, especially the working class, and you make middle-class isolated single-family homes available to workers, then they're not going to congregate in industrial centers and become active in unions and create class conflict. They would merge into the middle class and become independent citizens.
In the early 50s, women were bombarded with messages from the media and the government telling them that they belonged at home, tending to their ever-expanding families.
And as far as the Cold War establishment was concerned, the main idea of the American way of life, of American freedom, was grounded in this home that would basically be the place where future citizens would be trained, where American consumer goods would be displayed and consumed, where the good life would be played out.
The baby boom continued its unprecedented growth throughout the decade, finally peaking in 1957 when 4.3 million babies were born, 1 every 7 seconds. By 1960, the U.S. population had grown to more than 180 million. The post-war good times rolled across America. After a generation of frugality brought on by the Great Depression and World War II, Americans were ready to spend their money. Rising wages, low prices, and a cascade of new luxuries and appliances kept consumerism high. And a strong economy made for a strong country, one that stood a better chance of outlasting communism and winning the Cold War. Conformity and strong family values were important assets in the fight against communism. While the federal government encouraged mothers to concentrate on raising children, husbands and fathers were told to focus on their jobs and to provide for their families. The American dream was the family and the home.
The idea was, you know, get every man preoccupied with his own little house and family, and he won't have time for these political meetings or these union meetings that could lead to class conflict, which of course was the greatest danger during the Cold War years. And in the words of William Levitt, who was the creator of Levittown, one of the first and most expansive suburban developments, Levitt said, "Any man who owns his home can't be a communist. He has too much to do."
Because of the Cold War's inherent threat of atomic war, fallout shelters became a unique design feature in the suburban home. Intended to improve a family's chances for survival if an atomic bomb were dropped, these underground shelters were available in various sizes, shapes, and price ranges. The government encouraged their construction, implicitly asking Americans to rehearse for the unthinkable, the day when Soviet atomic bombs might rain down upon the country. And the country responded. 1 out of every 20 American families built a shelter in their home. A civil defense manual, talking of fallout shelters, noted Riley, "Your chances of living through an atomic attack are much better than you thought."
So there were a lot of propaganda efforts to encourage homemakers to make their houses safe in case of a nuclear attack, to build bomb shelters in their basements, teach their children how to duck and cover and protect themselves.
First, you duck, and then you cover. And very tightly, you cover the back of your neck, your face. Duck and cover underneath a table or desk or anything else close by. In Betty's school, they are talking about the atomic bomb, too. Know about it would be the flash. And that means duck and cover fast, wherever you are. There's no time to look around or wait. Be like Bert. When there is a flash, duck and cover, and do it fast.
In America's cities, air raid drills became regular occurrences as the country prepared for a terrifying World War III. With fallout shelters in their backyards and the threat of atomic annihilation part of the national psyche, America's youth searched for an escape from the psychological pressures of the Cold War. And they found a big one in a style of music that would be called rock and roll.